Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer. It's Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day as well as end of week market recap for Friday, October 4th. Just wanted to kind of do a quick overall thoughts of the day and how the week wound up. And I would say on a very positive note, this was a pretty choppy week for the most part. There was a couple days where price action was kind of a little bit of a dud. But I think if you were mainly disciplined for this week and you looked for trading setups, you found some. As we went through this week, a number of them, both in some growth areas as well as some value groups like energy this week, and that actually outperformed. And I'll go over the week's performance with you in just a second. But an interesting day. I think what's continues to be interesting in 2024 is how many of these gap up days we're getting on big economic days where there's a jobs report or where there's we've also seen them this year with the inflation reports. And my thought is on that is that you just have had to have some exposure in this market to excel, and just kind of understand that, hey, if the setup is there, you just kind of stay with it, right? And try not to get shaken out of this market. And what also helps too, I think, is just having the right position size so that you don't get freaked out or, start to think that this market is breaking down a little bit. From time to time, I think even in the beginning of this week, I thought it was definitely a possibility that the market could push lower. And at one point, I added a SPY hedge, for the day. Worked a little bit, and then price was pretty buoyant. It was kind of like every time the price went down this week, it was a little bit like trying to push a beach ball under the water. Now, maybe not a beach ball, because a beach ball, when you do that, not only doesn't stay underwater, but it also bounces up. I mean, we didn't really see for a good couple of the days this week, much upside momentum. But, if you looked under the hood in terms of those areas that have had strong earnings and are more quality names, they did very well. And what I thought was particularly interesting too is, as I also talked about in a couple of videos this week, about what happened with bonds and bonds going lower. And there's certainly going to be areas of the market that are not going to take kindly to higher yields. And I can kind of just start there, even though I know this probably is a bit boring to some people, but I find it interesting, that TLT took out a VPOC up here, did not complete the bullish 80% roll, looked like it was going to kind of hold in here, turned up on Monday, and then was rejected. Where was that rejected? Basically right at this 1 hour VPOC. So I had to dump, I was long bonds, and I had to dump the position as it broke down. And I did that, when it broke down earlier in the week. So I missed the downward movement today, which is a good thing. But you kind of just have to stay on your toes. And again, just kind of sharing with you what I think is important is just not to have big losers in this tape. It's a bit harder. One of the things that I went over in today's Tribeca Trade Group member Q&A session was that this is not, if you go back to a couple of years ago, there's a lot of new, obviously retail traders that came into the market in 2020 and 2021. And one of the things that I said back then was that this is not the best time for traders to learn, as it was obviously fun for them and myself because everything was going up and it was a pretty easy market. But the market also bailed you out from like quite frequently. So if you made a bad decision, if you chased a name, or if your entry price wasn't very good, or if you went too large into a name, the market ended up bailing you out rather quickly. You just had to stay in the name, and things would correct for you. Now, we are seeing, and we've been seeing, I think, for a good number of months, like more stocks going up versus going down. It's kind of a bear. It's a bull market. But from time to time, like even today, like the breadth wasn't. When you look at 4 week new highs versus new lows, I mean, it wasn't like it's not blowout things. There are groups that are now heading down. Fortunately, they are more of your unpopular defensive names in this market. And you could see the S&P today, 4-week new highs, 88 new highs and 67 new lows. So that's not bad. I mean, to have that, but it's certainly not as strong as what we've seen in weeks past. But plenty of opportunities out there. Bottom line is the S&P held where it needed to. If you look at today and seeing this kind of go back and forth here in the S&P, also on the 1 hour chart. Again, look at where this kind of came from. A little bit of an inverted head and shoulders here, but it really just kind of held in here and it didn't break down. The Qs, which I had mentioned, were stuck in the middle, meaning they were inside this area here, which was below this week's value area and above the monthly value area. Finally, kind of got going with that jobs report this morning. So, where does that leave the price action? It's been basically where we started the week. So, plus, with very small performance overall, it is good to see some growth stocks, and I'll go through a couple of these. This is FTAI. This is a name that I've been holding for a long time. GEV has been another favorite of mine. Put this in the TTG trend portfolio. I actually added it back today. I know the stock is up a lot, but hey, it is what it is. Like this is just textbook consolidation and and to move higher out of that. One that brought a few traders brought to my attention at Tribeca Trade Group was Shop. This is a nice move. This is a nice, pretty candle in Shop, right? Nice move up, consolidation, downward wedge, and then boom, up, big move to the upside. But obviously, I started to position a bit more into some energy stocks this week. That paid off quite nicely. XOM was one of them. Whoops. TRGP was another one. Also made a new high. The popular restaurant stock, Kava, did okay today. Another one that we looked at this week was ONON. Also had a good day today, moving back, testing those previous highs. It'll be interesting to see if that name breaks out, but a lot of names, a lot of quality names testing that 20-day moving average. Oracle is a name that I got involved in the other day. It held in there. Was a little bit sketchy yesterday because it moved below its 5-day moving average, but to me wasn't enough to stop myself out there, and that did very well as well. Just a couple other names too. Carvana continues to kind of grind higher like this too. Not bad at all. Berkshire is another name that I hold. That name also has been kind of dormant for the last couple weeks. Nice green candle for that name today. And here is how our watch list ended for the week. Just keep in mind, I don't have all my open positions on here. This is just the watch list. So FTAI was a name that I did take in the beginning of the week, up very nicely. Clearly, China did very well this week. They continue to buy calls in TIGR. I got out of that name and was very happy with the gains. The other day. I think I got out of that name on Wednesday. Palantir had a huge week. This is a name that I talked about on Benzinga earlier in the week. After this really nice bullish engulfing, just nice extension up in this one. Also, Meta tacked on more gains today. That's a really nice move in Meta. I was being a little bit critical of that name yesterday, as it was a little bit slow, but lot of green on the screen there. So here is the performance for the week. I mentioned I would get to this. I think the China Internet ETF was up around 25% the prior week, so tacking on 13%. But look at the energy. Energy was up about 7% this week. Aerospace and defense continues to be strong. Financials had a nice week. Utility with all those power companies doing really well. Traded TLN yesterday through a member brought this one to my attention. I actually got rid of this one because it looked a little bit weak intraday, but still made nice gains on it today. So just another name in that space. And On the downside, the home builders, more rate sensitive areas. Look at TLT was down 3% for the week. Bitcoin was down 5% today, even though crypto names acted fairly well today. That was down 5%. And then look at the dollar. So there's some very interesting macro moves. The market seemed unfazed by some of these macro moves outside of some of the rate areas like the home builders and consumer staples. We talked about that, I think, in yesterday's video, that some of these defensive areas are beginning to break down. So this is not an go up everything market. There's beginning to see more separation in some things. So in any event, I want to keep this video short, so I'll leave it there. But I think plenty of trading opportunities there. And hopefully you're capitalizing like we are on them and pushing ahead here. But overall, a nice first week of October. Looking ahead to next week, we will have some economic reports to watch and to pay attention to. We'll have the CPI report. We'll have PPI as well. And we'll also have the meeting minutes from the last Fed meeting. All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend and hope to see you in the trading room.